224 supervising Houston 4 for cutting East Valley Street operating on top.
We have a major update in the case of a former news anchor police say killed her own mom. What Angie Mock just did after being ruled competent to stand trial that seems to cement the horrifying allegations she faced.
This is the story of Angie Mock, and what happened after that morning may be even harder to untangle than the crime itself. Before any of this, Angie Mock was building a career the hard way. She started in November 2002 in Lincoln, Nebraska, one of the smallest television markets in the country. From there she worked her way through Rochester, Minnesota, then Missoula, Montana, then Oklahoma City, chasing bigger markets the way most broadcasters do. By 2011 she landed in St. Louis, a respectable mid-sized city, where she anchored the morning show for nearly 4 years. Anyone who has worked in local news knows what that climb costs. The alarm goes off before 2 a.m., the sacrifices pile up, and Mock made them, year after year, until she reached a level most people in that industry never do.
And may never truly be answered. But to understand what makes this story so incredibly shocking is you have to understand who Angie Mock once was.
Welcome, Angie Mock.
Thank you.
There you go.
I'm so excited to be here, and I look forward to connecting with you guys out there in St. Louis.
Then, sometime after February 2015, she stepped away. She moved into software sales, a common enough transition for people burned out by morning news hours. On the surface, it looked like an ordinary career pivot. Underneath, something else may have already been taking shape. Her mother, 81-year-old Anita Avers, was a clinical therapist in Wichita, Kansas, someone who spent her career helping people work through mental health struggles. Photos from the years before the murder show a warm relationship. Mother and daughter, smiling close. Nothing in the public record suggests anyone saw what was coming. On the morning of October 31, 2025, a 911 call came in from a home on Crowley Street in Wichita.
4 supervising Houston 4 for cutting East Valley Street operating on top.
That was the call that came into the Wichita Police Department. And when Wichita police get to a home on Crowley Street,
when officers arrived, they found a woman standing outside, bleeding, holding a towel. Inside, Anita Avers was on her bed, stabbed multiple times in the face and torso. She was rushed to the hospital.
They find the victim, 81-year-old Anita Avers. Police say that Avers was stabbed multiple times in her bed. She was rushed to the hospital and she lost her life. Now, the woman who had allegedly been covered in blood calling 911, according to witnesses, was Anita's daughter, Angie Mock. Police arrested Angie and they charged her with first-degree murder. They accused her of stabbing her mother multiple times, causing her death. Now,
she did not survive. The woman outside was Angie Mock. Now here is where the story starts to fracture into pieces that don't fit together.
In fact, you had to stab the mother to save herself.
Quote, she had to stab the mother to save herself. There's more context to that here, which we'll get to in a criminal complaint in just a moment. Now, Angie Mock was taken to the hospital as well as her mom. Police said that Mock had cuts on her hands, but it's unclear whether those were defensive wounds at this point. Mock did not appear to have any.
Angie told police she'd gone into her mother's room simply to talk. That was her first account. But investigators found something odd sitting on the pillow beside the body: several kitchen knives and a cheese grater laid out like they'd been arranged.
Say, next to Anita, on the bed, an officer located multiple kitchen-style knives and a cheese grater laid out on a pillow. When police asked Angie Mock what happened and whether her mom was hurt, Mock allegedly said, quote, her face, eyes, and gestured.
Not consistent with someone innocently walking in on a conversation. Claim 1 undercut before it even finished forming. She then said her mother had been sharpening those knives, and that when she approached, her mother attacked her with one. She said she was stronger, so she pushed her mother back.
And fought her. Angeline was stronger, so she pushed her back. Her mother then said, quote, I know you're bleeping Jesus Christ. So she backed away. Her mother followed her, so she went around her, grabbed a knife, and got on top of her. Now, Angeline said that her mother started, quote, spewing venom at me out of her bleeping mouth, so she had to stab her to save herself. Angeline then said,
but police noted the wounds were concentrated on Avers, an 81-year-old woman, not on Mock, who had only minor cuts on her hands. If this had truly been a fight for survival, the physical evidence should have told a very different story. Next came a stranger claim. Angie said her mother followed her through the house, then somehow got on top of her and began, in her words, spewing venom out of her mouth.
That she went to the bedroom to talk to her mom because she had an upcoming job interview at a local television station in Wichita. She then said that her mom was sharpening knives and was jealous of her and didn't want her to get the job. She then said that her mom chased her around the house and Angie needed to kill her mom because she wasn't going to stop. Angeline then was read her rights and said that she understood.
Investigators had no evidence supporting a physical struggle of that nature, no corroborating witnesses, no injuries on Mock consistent with being overpowered by a woman more than 3 decades her senior. Then a fourth explanation surfaced, and this one revealed something deeper than a shaky alibi. Mock claimed her mother was jealous of an upcoming job interview she had lined up at a local television station, and that this jealousy was the reason her mother allegedly came after her.
To her mom because she had an upcoming job interview at a local television station in Wichita. She then said that her mom was sharpening knives and was jealous of her and didn't want her to get the job. She then said that her mom chased her around the house and Angie needed to kill her mom because she wasn't going to stop. Angeline then was read her rights and said that she understood but didn't want to talk anymore. Now, police charged Mock with first-degree murder. This is the 47-year-old's mugshot, and you can see.
But there was no evidence of any such interview, no application, no contact from a station. It appeared to exist only in Mock's mind. Each version of events collapsed the moment it met scrutiny, and that pattern, claim after claim falling apart, started pointing investigators toward a very different question.
This is the 47-year-old's mugshot, and you can see what a difference from the person who so many people saw in local news back.
Not just what happened in that bedroom, but what was happening inside Angie Mock's mind. That question only deepened once her family started talking. Relatives reportedly told investigators that in the time leading up to the killing, Mock had said her family members were, in her words, robots, not real people.
Right, Chris. Some of the reports indicate that she was making statements around the time this happened to her family that they were, quote, they're all robots, not real people. Just that statement alone suggests that there might be some detachment from reality. And then when you look at her alleged mental health history, the fact that she was found incompetent.
A statement that suggests a total break from reality, not a lie someone tells to protect themselves. In November 2025, a judge ordered a mental health evaluation. By January 2026, Angie Mock was ruled incompetent to stand trial. According to local reporting, she had been diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Light after that mental health evaluation that Angie Mock reportedly had serious issues of mental health. According to 12 News in Wichita, Angie was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Court records referenced medications used to treat serious psychiatric conditions, including one drug prescribed for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, and lithium, a mood stabilizer typically used for bipolar disorder. Reports also indicated a prior 2-week psychiatric hospitalization before the killing, and a husband who had already noticed his wife's mental state deteriorating. For months, the case sat frozen. Then, on July 30, everything changed. A judge found Angie Mock competent to stand trial. Weeks later, she did something almost no one expected. She pleaded guilty to first-degree murder.
I know of no reason why my mental competence should be questioned. I have not taken any drugs or medications during the past 48 hours except Abilify, lithium, and 2 additional mental health medications. Any such drugs or medications do not affect my ability to understand my rights or the consequences of this plea. Abilify is a drug that is used to treat mental health conditions like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and major depression. So she was dealing with some major mental health issues and was taking medication for it, according to this document. And then lithium, according to the Mayo Clinic, is a prescription mood stabilizer primarily used to treat and prevent manic and depressive episodes in bipolar disorder.
The acknowledgement does list that you have some medications that you are taking. Do any of those medications affect your ability to understand what you're doing? No.
Then you move on in this document, and line 6 reads, I understand from discussion with my attorneys that I am pleading to the following crimes, which have the following range of penalties. It then lists murder in the first degree with a range of 25 years to life in prison. Then at the bottom of the document, you can see Angie Mock's signature.
However, by waiving your right to a jury trial today, the only portion of your case that you'll be able to appeal will be your son's. Do you understand?
Yes.
So this is a plea deal that Mock says her attorneys negotiated with her consent, and prosecutors have asked for the penalty to be life with parole after 25 years.
In the plea document, she stated in her own words that she knew of no reason her competence should be questioned, and that her medications did not affect her ability to understand the consequences of her plea.
She accepts this plea deal from prosecutors. Like, how does it work where the person, today is being held responsible for someone where she was incompetent, 7 months ago, 8 months ago, after this mental health evaluation?
Sure. So, Chris, as you're aware, incompetency to stand trial is different than not guilty by reason of insanity. Incompetency to stand trial in Kansas basically says a person has a mental disease or defect that makes them unable to either understand what's going on or to assist in their defense, or both. So she was in that place in January. It's August. It hasn't been that long. Typically, when there's an incompetency finding, there are restoration proceedings. So medical providers try to treat the defendant, try to medicate her, and get her back to a place where she understands what's going on and can assist in her defense. According to the court, they did get her back to that place. And now we have a guilty plea. But I think questions loom about her capacity, not only on the date of incident, but also on the date of the plea.
Right. That was going to be another one of the questions I have, because you read through the document where she's accepting this plea and she, says that she's on medications, which when you look it up, these are medications that are used to treat people who have very serious mental health issues like schizophrenia, which she reportedly has. And then, it goes through and she says, I am in the right mind. She signs it herself. So it's like on paper, she's accepting this plea. But then at the same time, though she's competent to stand trial, like, you do find yourself wondering, like, it feels a bit confusing that she would go in this direction when it does seem like, and we don't know, maybe she'll speak at sentencing in October and there's a little bit more clarity here, that there was an argument to be made that she could be found not guilty by reason of insanity.
I think that argument was at the very least on the table. There had been reports about sort of an escalation of mental health issues, including that her husband had noticed and that her husband talked about prior incidents. In fact, a prior 2-week hospitalization before these stabbings. And so that is all grounds to certainly strongly consider a not guilty by reason of insanity defense. I would note, too, that in looking at the Kansas law, the judge can consider these mental health issues in terms of what the sentence will be, but the sentence she's facing now is 25 to life.
Right. And when it comes to an attorney's, like, the role of a criminal defense attorney here, and again, like, I don't know, the strategy behind it or what it may be, but like, if you're in a situation where you have someone like Angie Mock, you do feel as an attorney that there's an argument to be made about not guilty by reason of insanity. And I don't know if they felt that way, but like, if your client just comes to you and says, I'll just take a deal. Like, I just want this to be over with. I'm not saying that's happening in this case, but like, hypothetically that happens, like, but you feel that there is a strong, like, not guilty by reason of insanity is on the table. Like, how do you balance